Okay, this is a video reviewing SoluTech 3D or 3D SoluTech, however you want to call them. I just call them SoluTech. So, reviewing SoluTech Flexible Filament, and the filament we're looking today is real black. So 1.75 millimeter, 1 kilogram or 2.2 pounds. Pretty standard stuff in the 3D printing world. I mean, I've seen people sell you smaller amounts, but that's usually at a premium price. If you need something really specific. Just to show you what it looks like, there you go. Beautiful, isn't it? Really shiny. You'll notice in a lot of the prints that shine tends to stay in, and it does lots of interesting effects. Pretty fun filament overall. So just to kind of look at this right here, you can see filament, nice stuff. Woo, does it what it does. Pretty flexible. You know, if you ever dealt with PLA, you don't do this. You can't do that. You can whip somebody with this, be like, wha-cha! But let's show some of the prints. So these prints are on some of my more standard settings. When I mean standard, I mean I print stuff using 100% flow rate. I call that standard. It's not like throwing a lot of filament down. It's just throwing what the printer throws out. So I get something like this. Now, overall, I'm pretty happy with the print. I don't see too many issues comparing it to other filaments. And as you can see, this is I've designed this. This is off my Tinkercad, where I design a lot of stuff. Pretty much that's what I do all my designing off Tinkercad. I really don't like using other software anymore these days. First off, Tinkercad's free, and it has a feature where I can build parts, which makes for designing much easier. But as I was trying to get at, this is a USB micro SD card organizer holder thing. If you go to Tinkercad and you look up SAK or SAK Design Custom Designs, SAK Custom Designs, SAK Custom Designs, you can find me or look up my name, Shawn Knese. I'm there. I don't hide from people. I don't care about, a lot of the internet drama. I'm just a person who's wanting to print stuff. I like doing printing. It's a hobby. And if someone wants to really go after somebody's doing a hobby, well, you're not going to stop them anyways. So like I said, designs to hold USBs and micro SD cards. This one holds 15 USB, 15 micro SD. It's one of my final designs for this thing. You'll actually see later when I show you my actual USB holder that I use. That's my final design for this, and that's my version 10. This is version 9. I like it a lot because I had original ones where it was held like hex drive bits or drill bits, and I had one that also held Allen wrenches. I also have much older designs that held like pencils and pens and erasers and extra lead cartridges. I designed all sorts of little desk organizers. But to get back to the print and the quality and what this filament's all about, this is on a little bit faster setting, so you see some of the stringiness, but that's artifacts of the printing itself. But overall, pretty cool stuff. You can see squishy. And over here, this guy right up here, look at that. Squish. So that's the flexible filament part. Pretty cool stuff. Squish, pretty easy squishy. Now, I don't care exactly for this level of squish. It's totally fine for the work we're doing, or what I'm doing, or anybody's doing. Depends on what you really want. But I'd like to say overall, nice print. But I like to have a little bit more firm or solid, still squish, but a little more firm solid. So I switched up this and use 120% flow rate. Now this is my actual USB holder that I use now. Bunch of USBs, all those out there. There's the one flash card I have held in here. As normally my other flash cards are either in the 3D printer itself, because using the good old Ender 3 right here. Down here is if you won't be able to really see it unless I move this guy. Right here, in that little slot, is where it holds a micro SD card. That's when I started really using them. So, like I say, hold stuff. Now, just to show some, fun little bits of computer technology and ancientness, and kind of like how old I am. I used to use floppy disk a long time ago, and I said, I would always use floppy disk until they had something that replaced the actual functionality of a floppy disk. Burning CDs, yeah, you had a lot of capacity, even back in the day, but it really just could not be rewritten on, and thus a floppy disk was nice for transferring single word documents, all that stuff. Oh gosh, single word documents. But look at this guy right here. 64 megabytes. This is an old jump drive. This was from Lennoxar. They did a lot of stuff. I think they still do things these days, but ancient little piece of technology. Still happen to keep it. Like I say, just slide the guy back in. Now, like I say, with this print and everything on the other prints, I can show the same thing. Look, you can invert it, and I kept the raft on because I didn't really care. It's fine with me. Sometimes you glue a base on these things or whatnot to make them nice, but yeah, it's unnecessary. You know, you don't look at the bottom of stuff unless you have like a clear table, and even then, who goes on every table to look at the bottoms of your desk organizers? Strange people. So who cares? But like I say, you can shake this, stuff's not coming out. I have inside these guys a little, I'm not sure you'll be able to really see it, but there's inside these guys little lines that basically grip the USB drive's end, or the little connector part. It's pretty useful, as you can see. It holds the stuff nicely. You can pull stuff in and out. Like, look, pulls in. You can pretty much do it one-handed if you need to. That depends on how well the print came out, because like I say, as if you've ever dealt with a lot of printing, you'll realize that if you have this even slightly unbalanced, slightly unlevel, this little nice little print surface, your board, whatever you want to call it, you will get some variations. Like, that's why a lot of us will either put a lot of extra layers on the front. There's a lot of things you can do to mitigate it, but the best thing to do is actually make sure this thing's actually level. This guy here, you can see this board has seen a lot of wear and tear, but that's because I use a lot of 3D printing. I don't sit around and say, oh, look at my beautiful clean board that I have. It's like same thing with a war sword. You know, someone shows you your parade sword, it's like, oh, it's beautiful and shiny. And it's like, well, is that the sword you use? No, not that. The war sword is usually pretty ugly looking. So, same principle, the board's pretty ugly looking. You can tell I've printed a lot of things. And one of the things I do to maximize my usage out of a board is I usually only print on a single corner. So if I'm doing small prints, I print on one quadrant or the other. And that actually allows me to use this board even when you start seeing damage, when you literally tear up the coating they put on it, so the PLA or whatever sticks better. And I had some damage here. And usually when these areas, I still can print over them, but every time you do that, you'll start pulling up a little bit more and more. But back to the print. So this guy here, the reason why I bring him up, this guy was made at 120 flow. He actually has a shinier black, and it looks much nicer than the other one. And it's a heavier print because it used more filament. And overall, I like the quality much better with this filament at 120 rate than, you know, at standard 100% rate for the flow. So I actually like cranking up the flow. It makes for a better print. Even though this is my final design, as you can see, I've added some supports here and so forth to make sure these guys print nicely, and when it sits on the ground, mostly so this wall wouldn't be so bad, because if you, I'll show you on the other one. Now this may just be an artifact of the print quality itself, like not using 120. This was used at 100. But these walls down here sometimes can be a little thin, and some of them are kind of a little misshapen, misformed. So I added some support structures, because once again, 3D printing is all about making something that's usable. At least for me, I'm a guy who likes to print practical stuff. I don't like to print things that are just purely artistic in value, even though I can add artistic value to things. Like, for example, there's a little star in here because of the design. I like to add a couple of things here and there, but you notice the bottom looks pretty ugly, but that's just because look at the board it's printing on. But you know, you put a bottom on this, you glue it on right there, you will never see that, never care. But the thing I want to show here is that this guy is not as shiny black as this guy. And there's actually another print I can show you that demonstrates this much better. Here, this light box. Another print, and I'll probably do another review of the color ones, separate from this real black, because it's not see-through. And don't get me started on see-through. This is not see-through. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not see-through. But anyways, this guy here, he's not that shiny. You can tell it's kind of like looks gray, a little whiter. If you shine a light right, you get pretty much almost like a good glare. Now this piece here, like I say, designed for light box, is going to have things go through it, so they'll hold it to the other one on the other side. So you would have this guy here, and this other guy that I dropped on the floor earlier. And you see how it is. I would have these guys connect here like so, and I would put a little connector through them. Now I did this because when you print it like this, you don't have any overhang. Once again, I'm all about modularization, and you would have that look kind of like the finishing product. Kind of looks ugly there, but no big deal. You could always put something around that. And these guys click right onto this guy here, which is designed to have a light tube go through it. And nice thing about the flexible filament, very forgiving stuff, especially when it comes to measurements, because you just flex around and actually makes a pretty tight look. Nice little light box. Actually looks kind of nice. But then I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to improve this guy, because I think because I was printing these guys at the 100 flow rate. And I switched to printing at 120 flow rate, and I changed up the design a little bit. Now this guy's much shinier, much nicer looking. And he was at the 120 flow rate, and I put an inside lip. Now these inside lips really suck with the Ender 3. Or, like, I mean, any printer in general, because the print has to go over and back over, and it like has to make this little line. It's not really good for anything that's like an extrusion filament that's just pumping it out and, you know, laying it on a board. Other stuff can do internal lips better, or if you do them like this, then you're fine. Like, but if you print it like this, it has to go over and has no support structure underneath. I don't like printing with supports because I find it's a waste of time and effort, because you have to clean them up. These ones, say, this is the print. It comes off just like this outside of like a raft or something. It comes off like this. So not much work afterwards. Pretty raw prints. So this guy here, I say internal lip. You have this guy here, take that off. So this guy's designed to go right on. There you go. And that internal lip prevents this guy from going in further forward, so you would connect another guy onto the other side, so it could make a chain of these. And I say, so as you have the light tubes go through, these shine up on the floor, so when you're walking around at night or whatnot, you're not tripping all over the place. It gives you enough light so you can see, and doesn't destroy your low light vision, and doesn't make you have a hard time falling back to sleep. And I say, this guy, you can see, looks different. This guy is a much deeper black, not as white looking as this thing. This almost looks like it had annealing problems, but when you use a lot more flow, it comes out much nicer. So my suggestion is, if you use the real black, or even the see-through ones, but I'll get to that in their own video. If you use the real black, I like to say use a higher flow rate. You will be much happier with the prints. You know, that's just the nature of the game with this guy here. But overall, pretty cool looking guy. You can set him up. I just like to say, nice black. Now, to bring up a couple of other things, because I'm going to talk about SoluTech in general. SoluTech's pretty much been a pretty decent company. I don't see any real issues with them. The one time I had an issue, they sent me a product that was the wrong product. I mean, not like so wrong. It's like they sent me see-through PLA, not see-through flexible filament. I could understand that mistake. It's just somebody didn't package or look at it correctly, or just threw whatever in. And you know what? I sent it back. Amazon, all the return policies, got the product back, actual right product, and I was pretty happy. So, you know, they do a pretty good job. The main thing I want to bring up with these filaments, on this here, another important point with the filament, is, as you can see, whippy, all that stuff, but you look at that, that's generally very consistent looking. You don't see really anything, any diameter shifts or changes. Now, someone's going to probably sit and say, well, why does that really matter or anything? Who really cares? Why is that so dang important? You probably have never, if you're saying that, dealt with something where the diameter was not consistent. Now, if it's consistent but slightly low, you would have a lower weight, you would have less issues, but when it's bigger or thicker, that's when you get the real problems. See, this is Pre-Line. Now, this is an older product to them. This is what they called their, let me see if I can't show you this description, just so you believe what I say, flexible red. 175, 1.75 millimeter. Yeah, that's debatable. This thing has, and it has a lot of issues. Now, I like the prints that come out of it when it works, but this guy here had diameter issues. You'd have larger diameters, so you're going through this guy, and like I said, I usually have like ones I've had literally cut out just to show. I remind myself this happens, but you'll see like some parts are thinner, some parts are thicker. It's not as consistent. And when you get a printer jam and you're sitting here thinking, like, especially when you're new to printing, you're like, oh crap, like I messed something up. What's going on? And it's like, okay, yeah, no, obviously I don't know how printers work and I'm a noob or whatever. But reality is you bought a bad product. You bought a product that it's trying to force itself through that extruder and it's going in the Bowden tube, but when it gets down to the extruder part, it just can't even get through it because it's got this big old thick bulge that just won't push through. Or it gets stuck up in some other part with that thick bulge. I mean, I've had stuff where it sticks in the Bowden tube and just stuck there. I can't even push it through dang near. And I'm like, at that point, you pull it out, you cut that part off, and you can put it back in a new spot. But I had to do this like so many times with this one reel. Now, I could have got a really bad reel, but once again, statistical controls, that reel shouldn't do that. And thus Preline was like, you know, not the greatest product in the world. However, when you print with it and it worked, it makes some pretty nice stuff. Now, like I said, when they call this red, this isn't red. That is not red. This is like an orange. Now, if it had like more red to it, I'd be like, oh yeah, cool. That's great. But it's not. It's like a basketball orange. Like a deeper basketball orange. And they might call that red, but it's not red. It's a little too light. Doesn't have really deep color. But for all intents and purposes, pretty strong stuff. This much higher as was advertised as a 95 shore hardness. Once again, everyone believes their shore hardness is X, Y, or Z. But this guy was actually a pretty durable stuff. What a lot of people who talked about this Preline product was that it was good for making remote control car wheels or robotic wheels or anything like that, because it's pretty durable material. And I've made some things out of it like this and some other stuff that gets a lot more wear and tear and pretty dang durable, especially for something that comes out of a 3D print. And like I say, you can see this is a much older design. This is back when I would put pencils in here. This would actually contain the lead refills. So, you know, you get those little boxes that have the mechanical pencil lead refills. I put them there. I put the erasers in these things. And I put USBs. But you notice this design here, this is a point for design, doesn't like to accept the bigger guys. Just a slight bit difference, and now you got a gap. And I like chucking things. And with this gap, it doesn't, you know, sit terribly well. Now it's easier to set them in, but say I can't push it through because right here and here it's blocking it. So when I switched over to this guy here, I've changed up the angles and a bunch of things to prevent these side parts from hitting. And here, there's the maximum distance I can do. And I say, you can flex up and down. You can put this in here. Another nice thing about these prints here, I like using these guys as test prints because you can actually physically test them. See, otherwise you're just looking at it and say, ooh, that's right or wrong. But when you can take the same physical object and put them in each hole and be like, okay, that was good, that was good. Okay, that was good, that was good. And let's say this one here, oh, that one's a little tight. Okay, you can say, and if you have markings on them, you can say, okay, I printed this on this quadrant or corner of the build plate, and okay, so over here I have an imbalance, so I have to either crank it up or crank it down. I don't have an auto leveler. I'm not even sure those are that great anyways, but people swear by them. So I can test all this stuff and all that. Like I say, pretty easy. And this guy too works just like the other one. Well, let's see, that one's a little tight there. Same with that one. Let's go with one that's a little less loose, just so you can see even the loose ones grip and hold these things well, so they're not going to fall out. So that's pretty good stuff there. Trying to think of anything else I have to cover over this, because like I said, the main thing I wanted to bring up is the diameter issue, because SoluTech is pretty good for the price. For me, it's what did I spend? Full price was $18.99 because they put everything on clearance. Normally they say, oh, we sell it for $30 or whatever. I think everyone sells around a similar price. It's like cheapest I ever bought was like a pre-aligned product, which yeah, cheapest. That guy there was like 14 bucks or 8 bucks or 9 bucks. I can't remember the price I paid for it. It was a while back ago. Like I said, I don't even know if they offer the exact same product anymore, if they haven't improved their statistical controls by then. But these guys here, about 18 bucks, 18, 19 bucks. If you get the 15% thing for a reorder, or to give you an e-coupon, maybe you can get down to 15 bucks. But like I say, it's pretty good stuff for the price. I don't like to buy expensive filaments, because I always find that if it's too expensive that you don't want to use it to make all sorts of test prints, and you're worried about cost, that's going to affect your creativity. So get something that's cheap, good, and durable. SoluTech's been pretty much that for most of their other products. And on another review, I'll talk about stuff like these. I like the see-through filaments, but that'll be it for another day. And thank you, and goodbye.